Alright, NBA free agency is a couple of days away, and in today's video, I'm going to be predicting where all the top free agents are going to end up. I'm going to be honest with you, some of these are bold predictions because I don't want to make a video and just fucking say that everyone's going to re-sign with their current team. So if you guys enjoy the video, hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching. First up, we've got Kyrie Irving. Look, this guy's a fucking nutcase, man. If I'm being honest, I have no bloody idea where he's going. He's most recently said that wherever his next destination is, he wants to spend the rest of his career playing there. So knowing Kyrie, it probably means he's going to play for another 3 or 4 different teams. Right now, the situation is that the Mavericks can offer him a 5-year, $273 million contract, whereas every other team can offer him 4 years and $202 million. Now, if I'm being honest, Kyrie doesn't strike me as a guy who's playing for the money, nor does he really strike me as a guy who's playing to win. I think he's just someone who wants to get in, get out, get his job done, and do whatever the hell he does in his spare time. Now, obviously the Mavericks want to bring him back. The fit between him and Luka, it's not ideal. When they played together, their record wasn't very good. When one of them sat, they played very good. So, yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher. Look, if I'm a betting man, I think he stays in Dallas. It'll probably be for like a 4 or 5 year deal near that max amount that he can get. And the reason why is just I don't think all these other teams which can afford to get him or find an avenue to get him are really desperate enough to sign Kyrie. Unless potentially the Miami Heat, who are in dire need of a point guard, and obviously Kyrie's good mates with Jimmy Butler. I just don't see it happening, man. I think he ends up staying with the Mavs just because the market for him isn't very hot right now. So I've got him staying there. Let me know what you guys think. Your guess is as good as mine because no one knows what's going on in this guy's mind anyway. Next up, we've got James Harden. I think he re-signs in Philadelphia for a 3-year deal in that $90 million range. So he just opted out of a $35 million player option. And the market for him has dried up quite a fair bit as well. Obviously, before there was a lot of rumors of him reuniting in Houston. But since the Rockets have drafted Amen Thompson, that's looking a little less likely now. And with the 76ers situation, they fired Doc Rivers, they brought in Nick Nurse. Obviously, they want to run it back. And if you're James Harden, I don't know how many other teams you can realistically go to where you can have a decent enough shot to make a deep playoff run. Again, I think Miami is a good fit for him as well because they're in need of a point guard. But are they going to be able to give him the money that he wants in a sign and trade? I don't know. So realistically, I think he stays in Philly on a 3-year deal. I think he opted out of a 1-year deal to sign a longer contract. And I think the annual amount will be a bit lower, but it'll be for a longer period of time. I do think that there will be some type of restriction on the tail end of that contract in that 3rd year. Probably a team option or it's partially guaranteed, something like that. But ultimately, I do think he stays in Philly just because I don't really see him going anywhere else either. It's also reported right now that the Clippers might be interested in him, but I don't see how they get it done unless they ship out Kawhi or Paul George. Next, we've got Russell Westbrook. I think he re-signs with the Clippers on a minimum deal. I think the Clippers can afford to pay him up to 120% of the veterans minimum. Now, because they are above that second apron, they don't have a taxpayers mid-level exception, which would have paid Russ $6.5 million. So he might be the biggest bang for buck in free agency right now, assuming he stays with the Clippers. I don't see why he'd leave. Obviously, he's in his hometown. He's on a team that genuinely appreciates him. He's playing with one of his best mates in Paul George. Obviously, his family and kids are in town as well. Like, he's made over $337 million in his career, so why should he leave LA? And this, on the Clippers right now, this is as big of a role as he's going to get on a team that's going to, kind of make a playoff push. So I think he stays in LA. I think he stays put. Next up, we've got Steady fucking Freddy's, Fred VanVleet. This is a fucking juicy and bold one, okay? I'm going out of my way a bit for this one. I think it's something that makes sense. I don't know if it's going to happen. It's probably unlikely, but fuck it, I want to make a bold prediction, okay? I think he signs a 4-year, $140 million deal via sign and trade to the Miami Heat. In exchange, the Raptors get either Tyler Hero or Kyle Lowry. I think it makes a lot of sense for both teams, really, especially for the Miami Heat, assuming they get rid of Lowry instead of Hero. Now, think of it this way, okay? The Raptors, they've just fired Nick Nurse. It's pretty clear that their core of, VanVleet, Scotty Barnes, OG, Pascal, they've peaked, okay? They're a low seed playoff team, if even. They didn't even make the playoffs this year, right? So I think they've peaked, and Fred VanVleet, I think he's gone. Whether he's going to Houston, which is rumored to offer him about 2 years, $84 million, I believe, or somewhere else, I don't know. But I think this sign and trade to Miami makes a lot of sense. Obviously, the Raptors, you let him walk, you want to get something in return, right? So if you get Kyle Lowry's $30 million expiring contract, he's going to be off the books. You bring him back home. It's great for the fans, great for the culture. Or if you can somehow finesse the Heat and get Tyler Hero in, where you get a young piece back who can, kickstart a rebuild alongside Scotty Barnes, you got to go for that too. Now, for the Miami Heat, the preference is obviously to let go of Lowry instead of Tyler Hero because they're both making big bucks. So if you're going to let go of one of them, you might as well let go of the worst player who's aging, right? Now, the reason why they need Fred VanVleet, he's scrappy. He's a great player. He fits that Heat culture, man. He's not the most efficient player, but he fits that Heat culture. The Heat desperately need some offense. And I think a core of VanVleet, Jimmy Butler, Bam, and if they can keep Tyler Hero, that's a fucking nasty team. So I think it makes a lot of sense for both parties, but let me know what you guys think, okay? So I've got Fred VanVleet, bold prediction, sign and trade to the Miami Heat. Next up, we've got 2 free agents from the Bucks. First up, Chris Middleton. I think he stays in Milwaukee. 4 years, $130 million. That's already been rumored. I think they're going to make that happen pretty much in the first day of free agency, maybe the second day, okay? This is his last chance to secure a final bag, so that's the only reason why he opted out. Let's be real, he's not going anywhere. Now, as for Brook Lopez, it's a bit more interesting. He also opted out. Sorry, I don't know if he opted out. Apologies, but he's also an unrestricted free agent, and he's going to be chasing that bag, man. Like, this guy's 35 years old. Yes, he's 35 years old, and I think he's going to sign a deal within that $18 to $20 million range per season. I think he leaves Milwaukee. Right now, the signs are pointing that he's going to stay, but I'm fucking making a bold prediction, man. I think he's leaving. And in terms of a destination, the Rockets got a shit ton of money to splurge. They could use a mentor for Alperen Sengun. Why not throw it at Brook Lopez? Best 3-and-D big man, best rim protector in the league. He can teach Sengun a lot of things. Or the interesting one for me is the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks can definitely they've needed a big man for God knows how many years. Why not add in the best 3-and-D big man to, team up with Luka, team up with Kyrie, assuming Kyrie stays. Lopez can be that piece that pushes the Mavericks into like the upper tier of Western Conference teams. I think it'll be pretty interesting. And obviously the Mavericks have dumped Bertans' contract. They've got some money. They've got some wiggle room as well. It's going to be interesting, man. So my bold prediction is that Brook Lopez leaves. I think Rockets and Mavs are 2 teams to look out for. I don't know where he ends up though. Okay. But that's my prediction if I was to guess. Next up, 2 Laker free agents, D'Lo and Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves, he's going to re-sign for about 4 years, $80 to $85 million, okay? The max he can get is 4 years, $102 million, but the way that deal is structured is he'll make $12 million in year 1, and he'll make $39 million in 2027, which is fucked, okay? I think some team is going to come in, offer Reeves around that, 4-year, 80 to 85. Lakers are going to match it. Everyone's happy. As for D'Angelo Russell, nobody saw his value drop as much in the postseason as D'Lo did. I think he stays with LA on a deal about 3 years. I want to say 52 to 58. If he gets 60 million, good on him. Somewhere around that range. Because you look at the Lakers situation, they've got Russell, Schroeder, Reeves, all entering free agency. That's 3 of your top 4 ball handlers. And the thing is, right now it's rumored that the Lakers are also interested in Bruce Brown, and to kind of acquire him, they'd have to renounce the rights to Malik Beasley and Mo Bamba. And if that happens, they'll sign Bruce Brown using the MLE, which means Schroeder's not going to come back, because the only way they can bring Schroeder back is through that mid-level exception, which I think Schroeder might have played his way out of anyway. Now, that makes it all the more important for the Lakers to bring back D'Angelo Russell. He's still a valuable contributor, especially in the regular season. So I expect both parties to get a deal done, really. So I think he comes back to LA. Next up, I've got Harrison Barnes. I think he signs with the Indiana Pacers on a 3-year deal in that $60 million range. Right now, the Pacers are rumored to have a lot of interest in Max Strus of all fucking people. They're looking at throwing him 3 years, $48 million. Look, man, if you're going to fucking just waste money, spend it on Harrison Barnes, who's the better fit for your team. The Pacers have so many guards already. They could use a forward. I think Harrison Barnes would fit their team pretty nicely. So if I'm the Pacers, I go after Harrison Barnes, and there are a bit of rumors of that happening. As for Harrison Barnes, it makes a lot of sense as well. I don't think he's going to return to Sacramento as good as he was, because he just kind of fucked up in the playoffs, really. So yeah, look, I think the Pacers swoop in, get the Black Falcon. He's off to Indiana. Next up, I've got Jeremy Grant. Now, this one's an interesting one, because I actually think Jeremy Grant is the perfect fit next to Sabonis. You look at what Aaron Gordon is doing next to Jokic right now, and you can't help but think that Jeremy Grant can do something similar next to Sabonis in Sacramento. He's, 6'9", he's long, lengthy. He can play as a weak side help defender, rim protector. He's the perfect fit next to Sabonis, but I don't know if the Kings are going to be able to afford him, because Grant's looking for the fucking bag. I think he turned down, what was it, a 4-year, $112 million extension from the Blazers earlier on in the season. And the Blazers, they're looking to remain competitive with Dame, and the first step to doing so is keeping Jeremy Grant, obviously. So I think if Grant turned down that extension earlier on in the year, he's eligible for 4-year, $140 million with the Blazers. I think he's staying put, although I would love to see him in Sacramento, man. Next up, we've got Christian Wood. I think he signs a 1-year mid-level exception deal, a 1-year prove-it type deal with a team that could really use him, really, because the Mavericks fucked up. You know, they sat him, they cut his role big time in the second half of the season. His minutes were all over the place. Like, it was just a mess. And I think, you know, don't get me wrong, like Christian Wood, obviously, he's been on a lot of teams in as many years for a reason. There's a lot of rumors saying he's not a great locker room guy. He's got a bit of an ego, whatever it is. He's still talented as hell. There's a lot of teams that could use him, and 3 teams I'd look out for him. If I was to predict which team he'd go to, I'm going to say the Miami Heat as well. Fuck, everyone's going to Miami, bro. The reason why is the Miami Heat, we all saw, they need size. If you're over 6'8" and you can do something on the basketball court, go to Miami, bro. They probably got a spot for you. So the Miami Heat, I think, is a great fit. Next up, I've got the Atlanta Hawks. John Collins is gone, so Christian Wood can step in, fill in that void, whether it's starting at the 4 spot and acting as the player that Collins should have been, being that 2010 guy who can shoot the 3 ball, or can come off the bench, play that backup 4 spot as well, I suppose. And then lastly, I've got the Cleveland Cavaliers. They've needed pretty evidently a backup center this season behind Allen and Mobley. Christian Wood can function as a 3rd big, and he's also someone that can play alongside either Allen or Mobley, thanks to his ability to stretch the floor. So that's Christian Wood. Next up, Kyle Kuzma. Look, he's just going for the money, honestly. I don't think he gives a fuck about winning. He's probably staying in Washington. They're kickstarting their rebuild. Kyle Kuzma's not young by any means, but I think he's staying there on a fat deal. I'm going to say something like 4 years in that $90 to $100 million range. Yeah, I could see him earning that. Is he worth it? Maybe. He's a good player, but yeah, I don't see him going anywhere else, really. As for Draymond Green, he's staying put in Golden State. Look, he had dinner with Damian Lillard. He's not going anywhere, bro. He's staying in Golden State, okay? As for the specificities, fuck, I don't know how to say it. As for the specifics of the deal, so he wants to, I believe it was sign a 3-year deal so they could match Steph Curry's tenure. Draymond is someone who I think is overrating his value a little bit just because he plays for the Warriors. I think something like 3 years, about that again, that $50 to $60 million range is pretty reasonable for him. Yeah, I think that's what's going to end up happening. 3 years, 60, maybe even 70. I don't know. But any more, it's like, oh, I don't know, man. And lastly, Bruce Brown. This one's interesting because obviously he just came off a championship with the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets can only afford to bring him back on the taxpayers mid-level exception, which is $6.5 million. I don't know if he stays, man. I think he wants to stay, but the pay cut might be a bit too big because he can get a lot of money elsewhere. And I think 2 teams to keep your eyes on, because they both can afford him, they can both use a Swiss Army knife type player like Bruce Brown, are the Lakers and the Mavericks. I think Bruce Brown ends up signing a 1-year, $12.4 million mid-level exception type deal with one of those teams. As for which one, I don't know. They could both use him. The Lakers would have to renounce the rights to Beasley and Bumba to get him, but fuck, if it gets you Bruce Brown, you got to do it. Mavericks, on the other hand, you know, they could definitely use someone like Bruce Brown as well. So that's going to be interesting. So look, that summarizes it for this video today. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who do you guys, do you agree with my takes? Do you disagree? Who do you think's going where? Let me know down below. Thank you guys very much for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.